right, cool. Welcome, everybody. This is the October 17th, 2017 Operations Committee meeting. I am expecting my other commissioners, but they're not here, so we're going to start. I am prepared and ready with all my questions, so and I want to be respectful of people's time. So I want to open the meeting, and the first item on the agenda is the food services update. Maybe you need some glasses, Liz. I hear we have a program for that. And you have some guests here. Are the guests the healthy food? Are they your guests? Yeah.
Yeah, I think Liz invited some folks from her staff to come down and see the presentation since they don't get to see these things now.
Yeah, and because you guys do all the work. She gets to make the presentation, you do the work, so it's only fair that you come. Awesome. Glad you're here.
They're getting out of a staff meeting today. We also do have some friends that I actually met through the Chief of Staff's office from a sister city committee outside Japan, so I don't know if you met them, but you guys can introduce yourself.
Thank you, and glad you're here.
So thank you. This is the annual update to the Board Operations Committee on the Food and Nutrition Services Department and our goals. My name is Elizabeth Marquetta.
I'm John Walker, Interim Chief Financial Officer.
I'm going to start with giving a little bit of context to food services in Baltimore City, and then moving on to our department goals and our progress to date. So to start with, I'm going to show you a couple of slides that we used at our back-to-school training, starting with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And as you can see on the bottom there, food is one of the most important things that we need as human beings, along with breathing, water, shelter, clothing, and sleep. Without it, it inhibits our basic functioning. This is a list of CDC's top 10 causes of death in 2015, and everything with a cross next to it is linked to diet. We also know that fast food consumption doesn't just impact students' performance, as they eat it, but it has long-term impacts. So one study listed here looks at fast food consumption in 5th grade and academic performance in 8th grade, and the link between there. We also know that in terms of current investments in advertising to children, we are heavily skewed towards promoting unhealthy and cheap food versus healthy fresh fruits and vegetables. If you look locally at Baltimore City, the health department puts out their neighborhood health profiles, and you can see that in Baltimore City, the leading causes of death mirror those nationwide. If you also look and see, they have a couple of good maps that look at the social determinants of health, and you will see that life expectancy in Baltimore City mirrors a number of other socioeconomic determinants of health. There's alignment with affordability, suspensions, and also the food environment, as shown in these two maps. And at the last measure, 30% of our students were living in areas of the city that had low access to healthy fruits and vegetables for students. So when we think about the context of the work of our department, it's really important to understand the environment that we're working in. Our 3 main goals are promoting high-quality meals, promoting participation in meals and access to all different types of meal programs, and running an accountable food service enterprise fund. When we think about a quality meal, it's important for us to kind of put aside maybe our own personal opinions about food and think about, one, what we can actually get our students to eat, and the actual program that we're running. Our wellness policy calls upon us to meet USDA standards, but also to eliminate ingredients that are not promoting of good health, to accommodate special dietary needs, and to provide transparency regarding the ingredients in our food. So this is a basic summary of USDA's meal standards. We have to offer all 5 of those components listed there. Students have to take 3 for it to qualify for a lunch, and one of those has to be a fruit or vegetable. In the past couple of years, we've made a number of efforts to eliminate unhealthy ingredients from our plate, and I'm going to talk about some of them now. School Food Focus is a national group that different school districts join in on and look at different ways to get unhealthy ingredients out of the school food system supply. So we actually submitted our 15-16 purchasing data to them, and they went through and looked at their priority areas, which are beef, cheese, and chicken, and kind of gave us a measure for where we are, the good, bad, and the ugly. So this is actually posted on our website under our menu link. So this looks at, the spending on these priority food groups as a percentage of our total district spending. And, the percentage of our ingredients, this is a slide showing the results about chicken that are free of unwanted ingredients. So here you can see that 53% of the chicken servings purchased in this year that we looked at the data were free of the ingredients that we're trying to get out.
Liz, can we go back to slide 20?
Mhm.
That one. What are we supposed to conclude from roughly 27%, only 27% being spent on priority food groups?
The
Is
priority.
that good? That would seem bad, but you didn't.
Well, I think these are the priority food groups that School Food Focus is looking at. So they're trying to look at items that school districts purchase in large. So you can see that, they've chosen beef, chicken, and cheese, and that's 27% of our total food spending. So that's almost a third. So across districts, a lot of districts will probably spend about a third on these 3 groups. So they're, I think, trying to illustrate here that they're choosing things that we purchase in large volume.
Okay.
So this is available on our wellness site. This year, we will also be working with the Lifetime Foundation, and they are focused on working with school districts to get out these identified 7 ingredients of concern. And they actually will work with you and look at, again, where you start and how you can make progress. They do work and, have availability and awareness of a number of different types of new products that are out there as well. And last week, we actually announced that we joined the Urban School Food Alliance, which is a consortium of large school districts throughout the U.S. that are interested in socially responsible purchasing practices. And the largest effort they have made to date is in doing group purchasing for a compostable lunch tray that has been able to drive the price down to within a cent of styrofoam. So they really do illustrate the power of group purchasing in improving school food.
Is that close enough?
We hope so. Be on the procurement agenda, so you guys will know. We also have been taste testing some new vegetarian items. This is some roasted red pepper hummus that was done at Poly Western. Ms. Hill, please raise your hand. Yeah. So that's the regional manager for Poly, and she was there the day they were doing this taste testing.
Did they like it? They loved it. Yeah, that's a really great presentation, visual presentation. You might want to think about whether the ops committee needs to have food.
And as always, there's unlimited fresh fruits and vegetables for students at our school, and we offer salad daily at lunch, as well as fresh fruit at each meal. This is a map showing some of the farms that we source from. And as you can see, they range from, Maryland and Virginia up to New Jersey. We have a 200-mile locally defined radius. And we work with Great Kids Farm to take the food that they grow there and put it into our salad bars. So the tomatoes on the right were actually picked by food and nutrition staff at our fall retreat. And on the left there, you can see them being put to use in one of our cafeterias.
Big time.
So we're also working this year to grow our Farms to Schools programming and working with farms that have existing relationships with schools and growing that as well. The wellness team this year is focusing on mealtime climate, so we're looking at different ways to link students to the food system and expose them to the supply chain through field trips, and recognizing that the cafeteria is the school's largest classroom. We also have our menus posted on the web, and this year we have a city schools menu app that shows you the ingredient labels for your foods and gives you the opportunity to rate them.
Any people using them? Does anybody have, check that for you?
I think there were 1,000 downloads of it. Don't quote me on that, ask the communications office, but I believe it was around that the
No, that's
last
good.
time.
It's a good start.
Yeah. So we also did some taste testings of menu items at back to school nights. So this is at Fort Worthington. And I also wanted to again mention, we are focused this year on eliminating the styrofoam trays from our lunch line.
So the new schools, you mentioned Fort Worthington, with the new construction, do the new cafeteria spaces, has it enabled you to do new, more, better? I'm getting some nods in the back. I'm just, because I know that the facilities vary, so it's not like, not all schools had the same facility, at the start of the year, but now that we have these new ones, can you just comment on the experience with the new facilities?
Yeah, we have Miss Carter here. She's the regional for Frederick. I'm just calling her out. Going to make her stand up. It's a beautiful space. I know at least that the tables at Frederick do transform from cafeteria tables into benches. So it's certainly, a new level of furniture.
How about from a food preparation? Do you feel like you can use the water? I mean, is it noticeably different for the staff? I mean, for sure for the students, it's all brand spanking new. I'm curious about the staff. I'm actually can she come up?
Yep, come on.
Well, I think I mean, the reason I'm raising it is that among the things that were, when people were asking in the design conversations for the new schools, no, you can literally, the food facility was I didn't want to just see your face closer. I really wanted to hear your voice.
She used to serve over 2,000 meals a day at KIPP, so don't let her shyness.
No, it's okay. I'm just curious about your experience in the new building. Has it made a difference for you in the food preparation?
In the food preparation, it has made a difference. It's nice and clean. Everything is new, and it's wide open space so our staff could prepare the meals.
So that all the food is prepared on site?
Yes.
Is that different? Some schools, things you have to have delivered, right? You don't always have food prep locations?
We have a few satellite sites, but for the most part, most of our food prep is done on site.
Okay, good. And the kids seem to have responded well, you think,
Yes.
to the new facility? Do you think because everything's spanking clean, they're eating more of the healthy food?
Somewhat.
All right, well, thanks for what you do. I was just curious. Thanks.
Our second
We have a
goal is,
question on the polystyrene tray page.
You want to talk first? You want to speak first? Do you want to introduce first?
yeah, so we've established the goal of trying to eliminate styrofoam trays from the lunch line this year. And we actually had a solicitation out, and we're evaluating options. So hopefully on the procurement agenda sometime this fall, you will be seeing the contract to eliminate, styrofoam trays and provide a compostable option.
First, I'd like to apologize for being a few minutes late. I had a 7 o'clock dissertation defense student there at Morgan State defending for her doctorate. So I dashed from one place to the other. So, yeah. So first, when I reviewed this, as a chemist, the first thing I'm going to ask a question about these styrofoams and the benzene. You're very familiar with that. The
No, I am not a
benzene
chemist.
Chemicals that's in these styrofoams.
I'm familiar with the the scientific reasons for wanting to get rid of the styrofoam, leaching, all sorts of toxins,
Right, I
and
was
the impact of
very
that.
concerned at the fact that it was actually there and it wasn't recognized early on because benzene has been a big issue everywhere for several years for the medical issue related to children, benzene, and leukemia. You know that, right? And I was wondering why it took so long. And but you just said that they're going to be eliminating that.
We haven't eliminated yet. If you go into our cafeterias today, we're still using styrofoam. We are trying to eliminate it, and I will say that the primary hurdle has been price. When we started looking at compostable options, 5 years ago, it was about 4 to 5 times as much per tray for a compostable option versus styrofoam.
And cups.
And in an earlier slide, we talked about the Urban School Food Alliance. They've actually banded together with large school districts, New York, LA, Chicago, to try to, bring down the price of compostable trays. They've actually been able to bring it down to within 1 cent of what we have been paying for styrofoam. So we're hopeful that we will be able to make the transition. The other issue, has to do historically, there used to be dishwashers in schools, but there was a lot more staff. And, as an enterprise fund, we do have to run a program based off of $3 per meal, which
Okay,
is
but-
not a lot of money in terms of, dishwashing.
And I do realize the economical reasons why, but there is an increase in leukemia with children. And I think that we need to really dig deep and try to figure out what it is, what other product we can use to eliminate that, because in all the universities, all the colleges, they are limiting the use of benzene. So, and this is at the higher education level. And, at this level, at our K through 12, we really need to really dig deep and figure out how we can eliminate that in it. And if you're already working on that, that's great.
Yeah.
But this,
And I would like to highlight, too, we have students that have worked really hard on this issue. I think we had more than 100 students that were down at Annapolis last year in support
Okay.
of the styrofoam ban.
Okay.
And nothing like our students holding us accountable, really forces us, I think, to do the right thing, which we should be doing cost-wise or other. It's the right thing to do. We need to get them out of our
it's
schools.
the only thing to do. Okay, thank you.
Our second goal is to promote access and participation in school meals. These are the school food programs available in our schools. Not all of them are available in every single school, but you can see the criteria there, and we certainly serve breakfast and lunch at all of our schools. And accountability. We are accountable to a number of different local, state, and federal agencies, and we are paid $3 on average for the meals that we serve. I'm going to talk a little bit more about what this means. We actually had an audit by the USDA and MSDE this past year in which they came in and looked at these 2 performance criteria that you see there and our compliance with them. They looked at it in accordance with the new 2012 school meal pattern that had been put in place. And what they found is that we ran a program that was in compliance. So they went to, I believe it was 17 schools, and looked at how their lunch line ran, their point of sale system, their inventory records, their food production records. It's a very, very intense process, and our team did an excellent job at meeting both of those performance standards. In the report, they also recognized us for best practices in terms of training, our wellness policy, our HACCP plan and sanitation, and our grab-and-go breakfast program. So I just did want to highlight that because these are not easy reviews to undergo, and our team did an excellent job. And last, I just want to talk a little bit about the enterprise fund budget, which you don't hear a lot about. It is separate from the general fund, which is the focus of the annual budget process. But as I mentioned, we do get about $3 per meal from USDA, and we spend that about evenly on food and salaries and benefits. When it comes to our food, We purchase over $20 million of food each year, and we have significantly improved the quality of the food that we've put on our trays in the past couple of years, and spent a lot more money getting better products. So our team has also done an excellent job at looking at efficiency with food, how we reduce waste, ordering and inventory, and moving, the mark on our electronic systems to help increase our efficiencies is really important. When it comes to people, we have a labor model for each cafeteria. We have over 700 employees and 500 FTE. 2 out of 3 are residents of Baltimore City, and we actually have over 8,000 years of service amongst our employees. If you look at the food system industry at large, you will see that in food and agriculture are the only 2 industries that we do not have a minimum wage for. That has not changed in more than 30 years. And so people that work in food service and agricultural industries are even more likely to experience food insecurity. So that makes our jobs extremely important, not just being accountable to our students and customers, but accountable to our workforce. So we have a staffing model that is based on the volume of meals served at each site. We aim for a 20 meals per labor hour standard, which means that for every hour someone works, there's 20 meals that are served through that. We have a manager 1, 2, and 3 distinction depending on the volume of meals being served. So manager 1 will serve at a site between 0 and 500 meals. A 2 is 500 to 800, and a 3 is 800 and above. We've also made a lot of efforts to increase the number of permanent staff. We had a lot of part-time staff in 2012, and there was a lot of turnover. And it is difficult to replace high turnover when you're talking about 800 people. So we have made a lot of efforts in the past couple of years to not only, run efficient operations, but also try to offer jobs that people want to stay for. So we do that, and we also offer a lot more training for our employees. This is just an overview of our staffing model, and it shows you how the different meal types are weighted when we consider what, the volume of meals looks like at each site. So if a school serves each of these number of meal types, the weighted ADP would be about 300. And that would translate to about 15 assigned hours, or 1.88 FTE at that site. This shows a little bit more information on the change in going from no benefited positions to positions with full benefits, and these numbers are taken from our June payroll reports. During this same time frame, although the number of benefited positions increased significantly, the total number of labor hours worked remained steady. And this shows only through FY16. We do not have the 17 actuals yet, but those will be coming from the finance department, I believe, in the next month. So, and this just shows you that FY16 was our first year on record where we were able to cover the cost of providing this meal program without requiring a subsidy by the general fund. So.
I don't have any questions. I'm going to ask them throughout. Commissioner Bondima, I just want to say that, this department is trending up by almost every measure, and it's just remarkable work by everybody on the team. So thank you, very much. It's not just, the bottom line looks great, but the healthy food, the more benefits for workers, the not just clean, but over-the-top clean audit. So congratulations to all of you. Thank you. Any additional questions?
No?
No, good job. Thanks a lot. I think, John, you're going to stay and talk to us about the
Talk a little bit
enrollment
about
adjustments?
Okay, what we're planning to do each month between now and the end of the fiscal year 19 budget is we are going to provide each month some type of a budget update to let you know where we are in the process and how we're moving forward. This month, I want to talk a little bit about how we're going to handle enrollment adjustments that have to be made for our fiscal year 18 budget. And this is kind of the schedule that we start out with. Last November, we started out with our fiscal year 18 budget and came down through these processes. We came down to where the new fiscal year begins, the budget was approved. Now we've gotten actual enrollment numbers that were determined for each school on September 30th. I caution they're not final numbers, they're just the numbers that were taken as of September 30th. Now, the next thing that we do is we take a look at the enrollments that have come in for each school, and then we go back and we adjust school budgets based on the result of the changes that come to the enrollment. Those things are going on now upstairs, those collaborative meetings are going. The reason we don't wait for final enrollment numbers is because we don't want to go too far into the school year before we cause this potential movement of personnel or changes in things based on enrollment. We want to try to get it done as early as possible to minimize the pain that would happen to the school, especially those that are losing enrollment. So that's part of the reason that we use these preliminary numbers. This gives you an idea of what the enrollment adjustment process is and how we go through it each year. This is our preliminary enrollment changes for fiscal year for 2018 as of 9/30. What we had proposed or what we had projected in the spring was we'd have 76,789 students that would be funded in fiscal year 18. What we're seeing preliminarily in fiscal year 18 as of 9/30, and again, they're preliminary, is 75,951 students. So that's a reduction from what we had projected, number one. But what that does is that changes the per pupils that schools will receive because there are now less students to divide the pie by, so each school will get a little more money. So you see that the charter per pupil will be going from $92.88 to $93.27, so charter schools will get a little bit more money per pupil. And the same with our traditional schools. They originally got $5,416 in flexible dollars as part of the budget process. Now we will give them additional dollars for $5,462 per child. This is a slide that shows where the largest enrollment increases were in our schools. And you'll see Fort Worthington's there at the top. So these schools will all gain dollars in both enrollment adjustments. They will get additional dollars because their enrollment was greater than what was projected, and they'll also get the little bump from the fact that the per pupil has gone up. So these schools will get additional dollars.
Do you, I know that you gave the top, looks like 10 here. Do you know where Frederick fell in gains or losses? Curious.
I don't have that data with, I can get it for you.
We'll eventually see the list. I was just curious. Because this is this is part of the point for Fort Worthington, so
Yeah.
it's great.
I don't think, in the preliminarily, from what I read, I don't think Frederick was quite as dramatic of an increase, but, Fort Worthington was definitely an increase. These are the schools that we saw with the largest decreases with the preliminary numbers. And again, I just want to stress the fact that these enrollment numbers are not necessarily the ones that will be used for our 19 funding because we don't have the final numbers yet. These are just ones at a snapshot in time as of September 30th as to what our enrollments were. And you'll see that we have some schools that lost some significant number of students over and above what we had projected. This kind of takes the largest funding increases that you'll see in the schools based on the enrollment and the increase in per pupil. And this will show the largest funding decreases as a percent of their general fund allocation as a result of the enrollment adjustment. Our next step, as I said, these enrollment adjustment collaborative sessions are going on with principals as we speak. I mean, they're actually working up there now. We have enrollment adjustment office hours on October 19th and 20th, and we plan to have the adjustments finalized for schools where they will make the changes to their budgets, and we will process them by October 27th. And that is all I have.
it's helpful to get the presentation, look forward to seeing the final numbers, but I don't have any questions at this time. It's pretty straightforward.
Okay.
Michelle?
No, I don't have any questions, but I'm going to study this a little bit more because it's kind of nerving to see some of this information. Thank you.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
Great, thanks. The only other, there were no other discussion items submitted today, so we only have the procurement item to discuss. Are people here who can respond to questions? Because I definitely have some questions.
You want procurement?
We're half an hour early, which is, all right, so rather than go through them all, I feel like we should have Blaine. A lot of my questions have to do with Blaine, and I don't mind if somebody could just check on yeah, because we're a little ahead of schedule, but I definitely want to be able to ask Blaine. Yeah, because it's a pretty short agenda today,
Yeah.
and with only 2 discussion items.
Yeah, the procurement wasn't too bad.
No,
Did you look at it?
Thanks, gentlemen, for coming down a little early. What I'd like to do is first find my questions. Sorry. See, you got here now, I'm not ready. Oops, October 17th, let's say it's 17th, okay. So I'll start first with the Marie Faring special item. I understand from the brief write-up that we got that it's in, let me pull it up, yeah. We've already placed a 5% deposit pending the 60-day feasibility study. So my 2 questions are, if we're in the 60-day feasibility study, why do we have to approve the contract now? So doesn't the deposit secure the I probably just don't understand how it works, and I should, but I don't. So if you could just
Right.
explain why we need to do this now, even though we're in the 60-day feasibility study, and if what happens to our money if the feasibility study doesn't pan out the way we want it to, and I can't tell what the source of funding is for this.
So, first off, we wanted to make sure that the board and the community was aware of this activity.
Yes.
So that is the principal driver for why we're sharing it with the board today. The deposit is fully refundable,
$17,500.
correct?
Yes,
So,
and that's for any reason totally at our discretion.
That's for what?
That refund is totally at our discretion for any reason.
Okay, so, but the 350, we don't have approval authority, we would recommend to the full board, but are we being asked today to
Right.
approve the expenditure of $350,000? That's what I'm just trying to, I can appreciate letting
Certainly.
everybody know about it because it's an extraordinary opportunity,
right,
but I can't tell the money flow, and,
so the plan would be that we present it to you today, and that we put it on the procurement agenda for October 24th, requesting the board's approval, pending satisfactory, inspections and everything else, that we proceed with the purchase of this property.
so
we
it
would
is
be-
pending the satisfactory completion of the
Yes.
feasibility study. Okay, so it's a contingency, it's like, if this happens, then we need this money.
Correct.
Okay. And the source of funds?
I think John is identifying that.
we will come back to the board and ask for an appropriation from our contingency reserve fund
Okay.
in order to move that forward.
The capital budget contingency reserve, or,
Well, it'll come first from the general fund contingency reserve, but then we had something that we did at the closeout for last year where we tried to set aside some funds, and we'll be coming back and asking for a supplemental capital appropriation, and then we'll put it, we'll move it back.
fabulous. So on the item on October 24th, it would be terrific if all that detail were in there, just so
Absolutely.
people like me don't ask the same set of questions again. Because I can appreciate the need to get it in here, and so there's less information, but it's nice to have people understand that this is going on, because it really is an extraordinary opportunity
Yeah,
for
we'll do a full request for,
Right up, okay, great. Trying to understand what the term is?
Sure. So the existing contract ends on December 31st of 2017. So the existing contract ends, and what we're sharing with the board is that the contract that we're going to piggyback is the term of that contract as awarded by the state of Maryland is September 1st through August 31st. So essentially, the effective date of the new contract is going to be January 1st. It's
So we already have a contract.
correct.
We're in a contract that doesn't end until December 31st.
Correct. And the price for the salt is the same for both agreements.
And
Okay.
historically, we get major snowstorms during February.
Yep, got that. Okay, the different timeframes were just confusing to me. Okay. Okay. My next question is Shaw Sports Turf. I didn't have so much a question on the contract itself, but I was curious of how we decide, how we prioritize the upgrading of the sports fields. And I did a visit recently to a school, doesn't need to be named, that definitely needed a new field. And so when I saw this, I was like, oh, we actually do allocate money for field upgrades. So I couldn't tell, I couldn't like make in my brain a lineup, the needs that you can see in a lot of places. I know it's only $100,000, so it doesn't seem like it would be enough to refurbish a whole facility. But it made me wonder how we do decide.
Well, let me just explain that Shaw and AstroTurf provided they're both manufacturers of our athletic turf fields that we have. The one at Dunbar was put in by Under Armour, it's a separate manufacturer.
Right.
How we prioritize is basically, to be honest with you, is on cost and easeability of the fields. Take, for example, Carver, you're a little more landlocked constructed with regards to the field. You have the track, you have a baseball field, and the football field on the inner side. We try to develop the baseball field and the track and everything together. City College was standalone with just the football field and track. The Frederick Douglass was standalone just with the football field and track. At Carver, it's a little more development based on the stormwater erosion plan. Then we would have to probably minimize that the soccer field, not the soccer field, the softball or baseball field that's there. So that is in our scope. Eventually, we have Edmondson to do. Carver, at this point, are on our list for feasibility and funding at this time.
But we are allocating out of general funds this year, so this is not capital funds, these are general funds.
This is general funds. Should the need arise for any repairs or maintenance,
So that's, all right, so this money is repairs and maintenance.
it gives us an outlet to provide for us to maintain the manufacturer's warranty. It allows us to utilize their vendors to groom the field, make any repairs that are necessary, and still keep the warranty intact.
And so for the other two that you mentioned Edmondson and Carver,
Yes.
when you said that they're on the list, but that would have to be on the list for enough capital,
That's a
excuse me.
capital replacement. They're approximately $1.3 to $1.8 million
And
of development.
are we allowed to use state capital funds for those kinds of upgrades?
There are sources in the state. Mike Miller's been using it down in Anne Arundel County, or Bush has been using it to replace his athletic fields, rec and parks down there. So, but usually rec and parks usually usually utilizes the outdoor environmental funds for that.
Okay,
We can request from the IAC their thing, but it takes, the funds that I get for supplemental usually are within 1 year.
okay,
And the time for the design, the actual construction, everything's longer than a year. So we have to request that through capital if they would allow that. But generally, in the past, they have not allowed that. It's more for the mechanical and the school structure itself.
okay. Yeah, it just, like I said, having just seen that, it
Right.
did make me wonder, it's probably something, we spend a lot of time talking about the buildings, appropriately so, with a lot of the contracts, so it's probably something we should maybe talk about a little bit more in the future, is just
Sure.
how we do think about the upkeep and prioritization and upgrading, not just maintenance, but the bringing them up to a real functional
Sure.
standard.
No, we agree. We're working with outside vendors to try to provide some sponsorship. Kaboom's doing the playgrounds. We're trying to work with Under Armour to put other synthetic turf in, as well as baseball and softball fields. So we are
Okay.
working with outside partners.
Okay. Commissioner Bondima?
Yeah, this is sort of off the deep end, when we talk about contractors and, well, vendors are separate from that. How do you determine, or is it when you put things out for bids, do you determine percent minority contractors that participate in all of your programs? What percentage does the city or the school board put in? Or do you have to put in X amount? And how do you go about doing it? Just explain, I just want to know how it's done. When you put your contracts out for bids, you have to have X amount of minority contractors to hire to do the project. What percentage do you
Okay,
generally use?
thank you. So, City Schools operates two distinct MBE programs. One is the state's. The state has their program,
What is that? Is that 25% or
27.
27%? Okay.
And then Baltimore City has their program.
And what
And
percentage is
typically,
that?
that's around 37%.
Oh, okay. It's pretty
A-
high.
And then just depending upon the source of funding,
Mm-hmm.
so if it's a capital project to renovate a school or build a school,
Mm-hmm.
then we would follow the state's MBE rules. And then if it's such as the majority of Blaine's work for maintenance and support, we would follow the city's rules.
Okay.
If that's sufficient?
Thank you.
My next question has to do with the colossal contractors. Let's see. There's a number of them. Skip over the wireless. It's the 13.07, the minor building renovation services. I also noticed this is central general fund, so we don't use our capital funds for the minor building renovation services?
Correct.
And I know I had a sort of a hallway conversation with Blaine just yesterday, so I think that, look forward to maybe hearing a joint presentation sometime between Blaine and his shop and the Family and Community Engagement Team on how we can really take a look at some of the vandalism issues, because I feel like, at least just seeing the material as it comes to us, Blaine and his team are responding. Something happens, they respond, and that's a great thing, and we budget the money, and then we spend the money on these kind of contracts. But for some of the vandalism that we're seeing, it would be nice to engage some community partners and just to see if we can't, see if there's something else going on. I just would hate to see the facilities team bear the brunt of, because it's more complicated than just replacing a window or replacing a fence.
Right. And let me
Blaine, do you
just add, I'd like to thank the board for approving our requirement contracts. It allows us to move more efficiently and speedier with regards to the repair, so it doesn't stay that way in the neighborhood or the school for a longer time. Thank you.
Yeah, and when I first joined the board, I didn't really understand the nature of them, but you can see that as things are required, we need to be able to respond, and, but particularly for the vandalism ones, I mean, extending the life and the ongoing maintenance, that's, I know we're trying to keep up with that even more so, given the MOU and wanting to keep up to date on maintenance, but these vandalism issues are, some of it's maybe to be expected. I don't like to think that way, but, so, I know you said yesterday you were talking to Sabrina and her team, and hopefully, I mean, I think it would be terrific to have a joint presentation, maybe at OPS, just to try, to have us get a first look at it. AJ's not here, but I see you writing that down. That would be definitely something that we'd like to talk about some more. My other question, and this is something that I have sort of two questions, and it's not about any one contract, it's kind of about a collection of them. There are a number of contracts in here. Let's see, I'm looking right now at the Colossal Contractors and Tito Contractors for the doors and frames repair, or the Alliance Exterior Construction, just to pick those as two examples. And this is related to Commissioner Bondima's a question about WBE and MBE compliance. So thanks, Jeff, for just a reminder, the state and city. But it was just curious to me that for these two, goals for these two, and there were a couple of others, were 37% with sub-goals of 27% and 10%, which told me these are city, right? And so I was curious that the actual results were exactly 37% with sub-goals of 27 and 10. And so what it made me wonder is who's monitoring? Like, is it really true that for all of these contracts, the actual results were exactly the numbers of the goal? Like, that's extraordinary.
So let me clarify. What we're speaking to there is when we put the solicitation out on the street, we post the requirements, the MBE goals, as 27 and 10. Now, respondents to the solicitation can take exception to the goals as long as they provide evidence that they've reached out to the community.
Okay.
What we're saying in this board letter is that the respondents to the solicitation agreed to meet those goals of 27 and 10.
Okay. I thought, so you're saying the actual results of the solicitation,
Yes,
not the
ma'am.
actual result, like, because they haven't actually done the work yet.
Correct.
Like, I'm sorry, I just made that connection, because I was thinking, wow, that seems like really strange.
You might see some procurements where we might say 27 and 10, and the actual results were 27 and 8.
So I think when we come back for some of these have, their 3-year terms, and I have seen this, when you're asking for a renewal, in the evidence of effectiveness, I'm hopeful that that's where you place the actual performance for past contracts, because it is, I can understand if maybe they don't meet it sometimes, but I think we really do want to see what ended up happening. And I've seen it in other ones. I know I'm asking the wrong question for the wrong item, but I'm just trying to make sense of it.
If I could just add also, we do have an MBE office that's under Brian Boone. It's in Tammy Turner's law office that monitors this. And prior to Jeff coming forward with this document, they do go down and review last year's and the past
contracts.
3 years' history and see and then throughout the year, Brian does send sampling to the vendor to make sure that they're on track in the yellow zone or the red zone to try to assist. So it's just not a shut the door, open the door thing. So we are doing follow-up.
Fabulous. That's really helpful. So maybe then when you do the write-up, since you are getting the information, it might be worth just putting it in there. I'm not trying to make more work. I think we're genuinely interested in this. If we're actually have the laws and are obeying the laws, we should report on that. My last thing, and this is, I'm going to admit now that I'm going to start to sound like a broken record on this, but I added up for all of the contracts for like roofing or door repairs, or I think I even put the fencing one in there. I just added up the estimated annual amounts. Like I didn't do the wireless ones and things like that. I don't even think I did the turf repair. But the estimated annual amount for all those contracts is $7.14 million. And we're not questioning the need for any of them, but it just always brings me back to our core business is education. And I'm really would like to know how we can start conversations with these people about, can we work with our CTE offices? Do they provide any internships? Do they provide any apprenticeships? We can't start to, I want to do everything legally. I don't want to start to provide certain contracts. There must be a way to chat with our academic side of the house to figure out how to make this happen. Because there's definitely a way for people to give back. And there's, what was I just reading recently? Where it was a different document, so many documents to read, about the need for more internships, and people want more internships for kids, and this would really help kids, and there's a real emphasis. The mayor's making the goal of having all kids go to college, any kind of experience the kids can get while they're in high school. And so this is a crowd of people that's getting $7 million to do trades. There was a plumbing one in here, there's carpentry in here, and again, it's like the vandalism thing. I'm not looking for you guys to figure this out on your own, but there are other people. Allison's not sitting here, but if she was, I'd be staring at her right now, or Sean, because it's not just for you to figure out alone, but I think we can work across departments and really, really do something here. We're doing a lot of it in the food service. We're hearing, the Real Great Kids Farm and kids, their culinary institutes, and there's a lot of blending over of roles, and this is just prime for people to give back.
I want to comment and just say that we've started those conversations with Career and Technology, and that we've had conversations with an electric motor repair vendor that we do a significant amount of work with, and I'll say those conversations are positive, and that we're in the process right now of sort of segregating out those contracts that we feel are applicable and well-suited for our children, and that Career and Technology Office is lining up the teachers of these trades so that we can have a meeting here shortly and start the conversation and continue.
I look forward to that presentation as much as I'm looking forward to the one about the vandalism, because I think when we can start to show that everybody's all in on the education side of the house, I think it leverages these contracts too for some student outcomes. So I really I know I've been a broken record on this, and I'm actually not going to apologize, because I'm really not going to stop until we get the presentation. So, but thank you.
And I'm so glad Commissioner Kasami said something about that, because what is absolutely critical is that the fact that you have contractors that we're working with, the same contractors that we need to introduce our children to, our education to. The legislature is big on now in education on workforce initiatives. This is the key top issue in Annapolis, Ways and Means, and also education, health, and environment. It's a big deal going on, and I'm sure you've seen it in the paper. And here we have all of the contractors, plumbing and all the other contractors that we really need to get on board. At some point, I mentioned to the commissioners about putting together a DACM, and I'm sure you know what a DACM is, where you bring all of these contractors together, just an invite, bring them to the table and get their opinions and bring them into the mix. Not that you have to make that a criteria for them getting contracts, but these are the people that we need to work with our kids before they graduate and move on and be qualified to go into plumbing. And I just need to say that I was talking to an air-conditioned person that came to my home, and he was overwhelmed because of the fact that he does not have enough people in the field to come in and help. It's outrageous that we can't bring in these contractors to educate and work with our students, so when they graduate, they at least have a job, so they continue to move on and to higher education. And I'm so glad you brought that up, because we're talking lightly about it, but as I speak right now all over Annapolis, this is the huge deal, and what a great example Baltimore City Public School would have to just be the one that bring all of these contractors on board. So I'm glad to hear that you're doing something about that. And if you don't mind, I'd really like to hear more about it as you move through that process.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this. I'm really hopeful that we're going to do some really cool stuff and be a model for how other people can think about who gets money from school systems. With that, we don't have any other items. I want to thank you for the great work everybody's doing during a busy time, and we will see you at our November meeting, which is the third Tuesday. I don't have it in here. Just for the record, it is, no, I can pull it up. It is Tuesday, November 21st. I think that's a couple days before Thanksgiving. So I'll see everybody here at 10 o'clock on the 21st. Thanks very much. Meeting's adjourned.
Right.